Welcome, riders and dot watchers, to the Great American Ride Recap Show, presented by Buddy. I'm your host, Charles Merritt. The Great American Ride is a virtual bike race across the country on the Great American Rail Trail Network. Teams will work together to rack up the miles and move their virtual dot across the map. On this show, we'll get to know a lot of the teams through interviews. We'll talk about their strategies, what's working, what's not. We'll understand everybody's motivation to participate in this ride. We'll talk about gear and bikes because, of course, everybody loves doing that. And we'll make sure that we stay on top of who's at the top of the leaderboard. I'm ready to go. It's early in the morning. I'm going to be racing on Team Buddy's Chamois Buttered Buns. It's a beautiful Saturday morning here. The race is just getting kicked off, and I can't wait to get out there and get my miles in. So while I go ride, you can catch up with Brantley Tyndall from the Sports Backers to understand a bit more about the event, what we can expect, and hear about some of his experience personally riding all the way across America as a participant in the Transamerica bike race in 2019. Here's the interview with Brantley. Hey Brantley, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here.
Give us a little background on who you are, what you're up to at the Sports Backers.
Yeah, I'm Brantley Tyndall, and I work for the Bike Walk RVA program at Sports Backers. I like to describe myself as the bike lane guy, but I'm, I guess, officially our director of outreach for that program. You might know Sports Backers for some of our premier running and bike racing events in the Richmond region. So I support all of our events in that way. And then when we don't do events, I lead some of our efforts to build bike lanes, paved trails in the Richmond region.
Folks who are around the region know you very well in the cycling community, so we're glad for all the work that you do to make it a better place to ride. But tell us about the Great American Ride. What's it all about?
The Great American Ride is a brand new event by Sports Backers that's 100% virtual. It's a coast-to-coast 3,700 mile team group ride, and for some will be a race from Washington to Washington, D.C. that follows more or less the route of the Great American Rail Trail, which is a 3,700 mile event or route concept that is a paved trail that goes from one end of the country to the other. And it's about 50% completed, and it's being led by a national organization called the Rails to Trails Conservancy. So we're doing a group ride that's virtual. You can ride your bike in person. It's not like it's all virtual riding, but you contribute your miles to your team's dot moving across a map from Washington to Washington, D.C.
And tell us a little bit more about the team setup. You know, how big are the teams? What do we expect the pace to be for some of the leaders?
That's a great question. I think, so this is one of two new events that we're doing this year, the other being the Great American 5000, which is a running version of this event. There's a little bit of experimentation. I mean, we're not entirely sure what the leaders are going to do because this is a new kind of strategy. But essentially, there are teams of 4, 8, or 12 that will work together. All of the miles ridden by each of the team members will contribute to a single marker moving across the course, the 3,700 mile route. And you can compare teams' progress against each other on a map that's available on our website. There are open categories, which is typically it's either the men's or mostly men's groups. There's a co-ed category, which you have to have at least 50% women. And then there's a women's only group for each of those 4, 8, and 12. Obviously, the more people you have in your team, the more people you have contributing miles. And so you can go a little bit faster. Is presuming everyone is, riding and you stay, you've got a good strategy to get your miles to aggregate. And then I think an important thing is that we did try to make this work for non-professional bike racers. Like you can be like a regular weekend warrior and still do a pretty good job crossing the country in the 60-day time limit. And it's really just about being motivated and putting the miles in every day, even if it's only a few. So we built the kind of parameters so that a team of 12 only has to ride 5 miles every day in order to accumulate enough miles as a team to cross the 3,700 mile course in the cutoff.
When you're thinking about putting up, whether it's 5 miles or whether you're putting up 50 miles a day, that back-to-back effort is going to start to add up for a lot of riders. And that's something about. I think you have actually are one of the few people I know who has ridden across the country in one sitting. Talk a little bit about your experience racing the Transamerica race and how that's played into maybe some of the inspiration for this event.
I had a sort of life-changing summer last year where I raced from Astoria, Oregon to Yorktown, Virginia in 22 days. One of those days was a snow day, so I didn't actually ride. But it's funny how in the middle of June there's snow in places. But that was a 4,200 mile route on the sort of historic Transamerica Trail as part of the Transamerica bike race. I ended up getting, according to the website, I ended up getting 11th, which is a lot. It was a result of a lot of work, and it was really just mind-blowing experience to go from coastal, cool Pacific Northwest ocean to hot burning desert to 11,000 feet of mountains, and then into the prairies of 105 degrees and 30-mile-an-hour winds. And then you start getting into some humidity when you cross the Mississippi River, and then to just make it into the Blue Ridge and make it home. It really was a journey, and it was a pretty wonderful experience, as hard as it was. And then to get home and to see you and my friends at the Yorktown Monument, you couldn't really compare it to anything else. And in 2020, where most major sporting events are postponed or canceled, we wanted to sort of take the opportunity to see if we could share that experience with other people, in part because the way people followed my race was that dot moving across a map. And so we wanted to share that, what we call dot watching experience, with a lot of people so that you can watch people's progress as they do something really cool. So that's one of the things that we took away from that Transamerica bike race experience to share with everyone else. And crossing the country is, dedicating 3 weeks or 3 months, as a lot of people might take, is not something that's realistic for a lot of people's schedules. We work, we have all kinds of obligations and responsibilities.
We're not allowed to go anywhere anymore.
And you're not, and then some of those kinds of barriers. You might as well consider another way. And this is the time to try it virtually. One of the things that we prepare to offer is that virtual experience of when you get to a new place. What are you seeing? What's it like there? What kind of cultural or historical markers there? And we hope to tell that story to our participants as well.
Well, I know that I'm excited about the event. I actually heard through the grapevine that you might have joined a team. Is that rumor true?
Oh my gosh, this is some pressure. I have not joined a team yet. I guess I'm on the market, though I'm not in the same kind of biking shape that I was last year.
Was there an experience in particular where you just sort of had a moment of am I going to make it, or what am I doing, and what were the circumstances around that?
There were a couple, and they were basically all related to temperature. At the very end of the race, I was 4,000 miles in, and I had lost 7 pounds in 3 weeks. I couldn't keep my body warm anymore. I was wearing everything I was wearing, or everything I was carrying, like a rain jacket, a couple of layers, and I was freezing at 55 degrees. Prior to that, I mentioned my snow day. I want to make a little clarification that the route that we're doing is not an official Great American Rail Trail route. In part, that's because there are existing trails, and there are some sections between existing trails where they have not drawn a line of where they want that trail to go. It's up in the air, and they don't want anyone to feel like they are making big decisions. So they gave us some freedom to draw a line between some of those sections, and I chose to draw along some of the Transamerica route where I had this snow day experience. So it's 10 days or so into June, and you approach Yellowstone National Park from the west. And I rode through 4 hours of snow. It was just snowing on me. And then it got dark. And as I'm approaching the town of West Yellowstone, and I got hypothermia. definitely. And my head started to get feel like it was getting smaller, and my vision was getting dark. And I really thought about pulling over on the side of the road and like flagging someone down, but the problem is there's no one out there. And so I thought that if I stopped, I would just immediately freeze. And so I had to keep going. And eventually I made it, but it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And I've done some snow rides before because I wanted to kind of push my limits, and they prepared me just enough, but not really to make it that comfortable. While you're in the Idaho, Montana, Wyoming area, you can think about that you get to ride in warm weather instead of the blizzard that I had to ride through.
I know that there are lots of riders out there who are going to be checking in with us to kind of see what's going on in the leaderboard, to hear from other riders and other teams. Are there things that you've learned along the way, either as part of your training for the for the Transamerica, or as part of actually doing the race, that our riders in the Great American Ride can take and apply to what we're about to get into for the next few weeks?
I want to start by saying you don't have to necessarily do a bunch of training and to come with a huge level of fitness to be able to complete this. It's really about consistency, really good teamwork, and making sure that you're staying tight with your teammates, some of whom you might not be able to see in person or may not even really know personally. Developing a good email list or ways to communicate, a text thread, that kind of thing. And my boss and a couple of my coworkers just completed their Great American 5000 running race across the country, and I think that they would tell you that they're not professional runners, but they did an amazing job because they coordinated so well, making sure they always had someone running. They were always getting their miles in, and it was extremely inspiring to watch. And so don't feel like you have to come with a professional level amount of training. Ride a little bit every day is really the biggest trick. And I think about it like brushing your teeth. You can brush your teeth 2 minutes a day, or you can brush your teeth 14 minutes one time a week. So it's I much prefer the former. You'll find that you recover better, you get less tired, you don't get to that kind of deep, dark, fatigued or annoyed feeling that you can get at the end of a long effort. The counterpoint to that is you can't just make it routine. Do something new, try something new all the time. Go to a new place, a new town, try some new tires on your bike. Change the look and feel of your experience so that you don't get bored. 60 days, 30 to 60 days, it could feel like a really long time when you get towards the end of it, or you get right in the middle of it, you still have a month to go. There are plenty of answers to that question that are related to you should probably use chamois cream, or you should maybe lube your chain, things like that. There are plenty of other kind of tangible tactical sides of things, but one of the things I think is so important that I learned from the Trans Am is so much of it is in your head. So stay curious and hungry, and explore. The exploration side of it was the biggest part of why I did it.
Thank you so much, Brantley. Do you have any other parting thoughts for everybody who's going to be tuning in over the next few weeks?
Yeah, well, so registration, we're filming this on the day before the start of the race, but registration will go from now and it ends in August. So if you missed the Grand Depart, you still have a chance to get in there if you have some friends who want to cross the country with you in a limited time virtually. And the other is, if you don't have a team, we've got a Facebook group and some other ways for you to get connected to find you can be a wingman on someone else's team.
That's great. If you send those links over, we'll make sure that we have those in the description for this video. So if you are still interested in signing
up, check the description.
Check the description, links down there. All right, Brantley. We'll see you out on the road, and I'll make sure that if you need a spot, we'll have one for you on the team.
Cool. I'd like to ride with you one way or the other.
All right. Big thank you to Brantley for spending some time with us. I'm still out here getting my miles in for the day, so I'm going to get back to it. But We got a lot of great stuff coming up for you on the show. So everybody get out there, have some fun, and ride safe.